Hello there and welcome to the show. I am Siddharth Vinayak Patnankar. Thanks for joining us. As you can see, we've got the complete lineup of the new range of cars from Mercedes-Benz, the GLE family. Of course, is the car that replaces the ML class in India and the rest of the world. We've got the regular SUV with us, if you will, because now there is that coupe body style as well. Let's get into the entire story then with the new GLE. Call it good timing, shrewd business sense, or simply a necessity, or call it all three. I'll explain why. Mercedes-Benz decided to change the way it names its SUVs and car lineup, with the A, C, E and S being the only alphabets that really matter, and so as the name change came into effect, the ML class had to become the GLE. So, good timing then, as the ML was ready for its facelift anyway. Shrewd business sense, since Mercedes had to have an X6 rival for BMW, so with the facelift also comes the coupe body style variant of the GLE. And of course you understand, therefore the necessity to do both things, right? The new GLE is going to replace the ML class in India later this year and will still retain its 250 and 350 CDI nomenclature for the two diesel engine variants. And yes, that means the same engines, but we do get the new 9-speed auto gearbox that replaces the 7-speed. So of course it made sense to spend the bulk of my time with the new GLE family in this, the GLE 250 CDI. The 250 will continue to give Mercedes-Benz India the bulk of its sales after all. At first glance, the car looks almost exactly like the ML 250 CDI. The facelift is a minor one, with the bumpers, head and tail lights and outside mirrors getting a reworking. Step inside and it's a different story, as the GLE now tries harder to be the E-class of SUVs. The cabin is very well finished and looks more high-end and plush than before. A lot of buyers in India are especially going to like that. The 250 is familiar territory under the hood and now seems to offer better torque at the low end. The engine has been retuned to fit the new transmission, and that shows up in making it come across as more refined than before. The car moves quickly enough given it is heavy, and the 250 is the smaller engine, remember. You do need to work the gears a little bit to get it going at times, but for the most part it is an extremely comfortable and pleasant drive. The transmission drops gears very quick if you do want immediate access to power, and the long gearing gives you great cruising capability. Mercedes-Benz claims more than cruising on this car, so we dropped off the motorway and onto some off-road terrain next. Here I switched cars and jumped into the 333 bhp GLE 400. Yes, the petrol does instantly offer a different character. It was quite a superb track setup for us, and the rainy, cloudy weather made it even more fun thanks to some slush and mud adding to things. It's a really good course that's been set up here by Mercedes-Benz. You get a great sense of the capability of this vehicle. And now in this segment, it's a good differentiation between the different products really, and that's a good thing because they all have their own identity. Now the X5 from BMW, there is some talk of off-roading, but it's really about performance. When you look at the Q7, the recently newly launched second generation of that car, it is all about road performance and its driving attributes. And now with this car, the GLE is talking about fairly tough off-roading, and so even though I know a lot of the buyers are probably not going to venture even remotely as far as what we are about to do, it's still a good differentiation nevertheless.
yes, it took to the track all right. Nimble on upward and downward gradients, and also traversing the uneven surfaces and ditches with ease.
Nice course. You got a chance to really check out the different features and functions of the car, but in terms of the way the car actually gains height, you've seen that on a lot of these vehicles, and let me quickly explain that to you. A nice amount of wheel travel visible here. This is the off-road setting, where by default the car goes up 30 millimeters. You put it into off-road plus, it's another 30 millimeters, and then you have the capability to actually play around with it and push it up yet another 30, which means 90 millimeters higher than the regular height. That depends on the kind of terrain you're in, and of course it improves the capability of the car on that kind of different terrain. When you get back on the road, you forget to switch that off, no worries, the car will sense that you're gaining speed and you're back on tarmac, and it'll automatically lower the height again.
The car with me has the off-road package on it, but that wouldn't be on offer in India most likely. Yet it was worth my time to check it out, as it also points to the overall capability and build of the GLE. I can also quickly share with you that I had begun my day by driving the GLE 500E. That is an all-new hybrid variant that marries the 3-litre turbo V6 petrol to an electric motor to produce a combined 435 bhp. It has a pure electric range of about 30 kilometers, and I managed to squeeze out 37 kilometers. But that variant wouldn't come to India, and which is why I've been more focused on the 250 CDI. But that is not all that is new with the GLE. There is that new coupe body style still to show you in detail, isn't there?
Those who know me know that this isn't for me. This isn't my kind of vehicle. The whole coupe SUV thing, I don't get it. But then I'm possibly, or in fact definitely not the target consumer for these brands, because I've said this before with the X6 as well. BMW sold 260,000 units of the first generation of the X6, and well, the second generation's been around a few months, so already there are sales racking up on that one too. So it's clear that Mercedes-Benz needed a vehicle like this in its lineup. Audi's working on one too, we know this, but Mercedes is ready with the GLE Coupe, and for sure Mercedes-Benz would like to sell a few 100,000 units of this one too.
So it is evident why the GLE Coupe was conceived. And now that it is here, I have to say that it is definitely a more well-proportioned and a very good-looking car when compared to the X6. The GLE Coupe almost looks like a cross sedan at first glance, doesn't it? The rear is trying a bit too hard to be in line with the S Coupe, and the boot release in the bumper isn't convenient. But the reverse camera being housed beneath the Mercedes star is quite clever. The car with me was the AMG trim and not the Mercedes AMG GLE 63 Coupe, which is also on offer, which means AMG trim but not an AMG power plant. And given that the Coupe will get to India as a niche offering that will be directly imported, I see merit in the AMG trim line being standard for India. Even though it may be just the trim, the 450 is still no meek machine. The car punches 367 horses and peak torque kicks in as low as 1800 RPM and has a nice run all the way through to 4000 RPM. And then there's the new 9-speed gearbox, of course.
The big attraction for me to get into this car was also, besides of course the fact that it's new, the new gearbox. The 9-speed gearbox is something new from Mercedes-Benz, and it's the first time I'm getting a chance to experience it on this particular model. Of course, you're going to start to see it make an appearance on more and more of the family members, and that's really the reason why Mercedes has gone from the 7G-tronic to the 9G-tronic, to have a greater flexibility with the different kinds of engines it's going to be playing with going forward, and also the kind of consumer preferences for those different engines and the different driving habits of those consumers too.
That the gearbox does deliver is something I've already shared with you, since it was also on the GLE 250 I drove earlier. The good news is that the Coupe has a distinctly different drive feel and a very different character overall when compared to the SUV. The car is quick, nimble, and has a more car-like feel for sure.
The V6 engine is nice and quick, and its character really comes to life when you put it into Sport Plus mode. Not so much Sport mode really, even more so in Sport Plus, because that's when you can hear the exhaust pop and crackle and the nice revs. The gear changes are nice and quick as well, and so on the Autobahn you get the kind of speeds you really want to. But performance and a very highly sporty character, well, that doesn't seem to be the big focus area for this car. I think that's what makes it distinctly different from the X6. On this car, the whole focus seems to be to pamper the consumer, nice and plush, and look at the surroundings I'm in. I think Mercedes has done very well with that.
And that's what I believe is the USP of the new GLE family overall. That is what will make people sit up and take notice. The fact that the new range is indeed closer to being the E-class of SUVs. The interiors are indeed a class apart, and on the GLE Coupe is where this is no doubt more pronounced and obvious. The car is luxurious, well appointed, and sports all the bells and whistles and gadgets buyers today demand. It is a good differentiator to carry into the Indian market too. After all, the GLE family will now need to take on two cars, who will also try very hard to establish themselves as the segment benchmark. That's the second generation of both the Volvo XC90 and the Audi Q7. And don't forget the BMW X5 and X6 either. Expect the GLE SUV in India around Diwali to clash with the Q7, and the Coupe should grace the Mercedes-Benz stands at the Delhi Auto Expo in February, with a launch a few weeks later.